We're going to begin the funeral service for Mr. Herbert J. Dorfman. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode or turn it completely off at this time. I'd also like to welcome anybody and everyone via live stream on behalf of the family. Thank you for attending. Services will be conducted by Rabbi Margaret Frisch Klein of Congregation Knesset Israel in Elgin. And she's going to start with the ancient tradition of cutting of the kriya.
I joked with Peggy earlier, the best thing I learned in confirmation class was how to adjust a mic. Can everybody hear me in the back? Live stream? They can't answer, but it's worth checking because she was bending over like this. The Jewish people respond to death with 3 words of blessing. Immediately on hearing of the death of a loved one, we say these words and we tear our clothes because our hearts themselves are so very torn. Blessed is the judge of truth, Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. It may seem strange to begin with these words of blessing because this is not the outcome that any of us wanted or hoped for or prayed for. Nonetheless, let us begin this service with the words, the wisdom of our tradition. The immediate family has little black ribbons and will now tear them, and Peggy will help. Repeat after me. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. Blessed is the judge of truth. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed is the name of the Lord. We are assembled here today with some of Herb's family and friends in the darkness in this light room that has fallen upon us. We raise our voices together with the source of life, asking for comfort and strength. We need light when gloom darkens our lives. We need fortitude and courage when pain and loss assail us. May we find these in God. Let us find them too in the loved ones and companions who do God's work by binding up the wounds of the stricken. Who among us has not passed through trials and bereavements? Some bear fresh wounds in their hearts and therefore feel more keenly the kinship of sorrow. Others, whose days of mourning are more remote, still recall the comfort and sympathy that were brought to their sorrowing hearts. May our sharing of sorrow and memory today and our deeds of solace bring comfort to the loved ones of Herb. Psalm 1. Happy is the man who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, or taken the path of sinners, or joined the company of the insolent. Rather, the teaching of the Lord is his delight, and he studies that teaching day and night. He is like a tree planted beside streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, whose foliage never fades, and whatever it produces thrives. Psalm 23. We got folios. Sometimes it's in here. It is in the middle of your folio. We read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of the righteous for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Esaena el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esaena el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, Ose shamayim v'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, Ose shamayim v'aretz. That was Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your presence will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. In most moments like this, there's somebody who, or some ones who emerge as the caregiver, and their task is now finished. So this is the prayer for the caregivers. Unknown and often unnoticed, you are a hero nonetheless. For your love and sacrifice is God at his best. You walk by faith in the darkness of the great unknown. Your courage, even in weakness, gives life to your beloved. You hold shaking hands and provide the ultimate care. Your presence, the knowing that you are simply there. You rise to face the giant of disease and despair. It is your finest hour, though you may be unaware. You are resilient, amazing, and beauty unexcelled. You are the caregiver, and you have done well. We take this opportunity to share a number of reflections and memories. We have a series of speakers, but Barbara herself wrote out words that she wanted me to read to all of you. So she's first. Labor Day weekend, 1964, changed my life forever. 2 friends and I went to a Wisconsin resort for the holiday weekend. Somehow the resort made an error. Instead of having 2 rooms with a shareable bathroom with women on both sides, they booked 3 guys on one side, along with my friends and I on the other. My friends and I went horseback riding, and upon our return to our room, we discovered the bathroom door on the other side was removed. I was the one who made the discovery and yelled at the 3 guys who were laughing at their joke on us. Those 2 guys who were with her that day are here today, Alan and Howard, and I know that we're going to hear from Howard shortly. I added that. And this is how we met and began our journey from 1964 until now. That weekend, I learned about Herb's childhood growing up in Albany Park, his parents, Fanny and Nathan, and their grocery store in Logan Square. His 3 brothers, Irving, Phillip, and Robert. He had lost his dad on his 20th birthday the year prior. We talked about his being in the Naval Air Reserves with his 2 prankster buddies I had just met. This was the beginning of our long journey, just for my sake. Alan and Howard, can you just raise your hands so I know who we're talking about? Okay, thank you. Always together, huh? Still. Okay. There's a bathroom here in case you need to remove a door. About a month after, Herb introduced me to his childhood best friend, Fred, whom he had known since he was 5 years old. And later, they were bar mitzvah together. And I met you already today. Along came Karen, who became Fred's wife and became one of my best lifelong friends. Together, we celebrated the joys of life over the years, from weddings to 4th of July to Thanksgiving to Rosh Hashanah and Passover. In 1968, we married and we began our lives. Our family shared holidays and more. I now have 3 wonderful brothers-in-law and warm, dedicated sisters-in-law, Eileen, Sharon, both of blessed memory, and my dear Biv, and many other adorable Dorfman nieces and nephews, Debbie, Nancy, Nina, Marla, Jordan, Lori, Jill, Mark, Ellen, Rachel, Debbie, Nancy, Nina, Marla. I think this is a repeat. Jordan. I want to make sure we get them all, though, so I'm going to read the whole list. Lori, Jill, Mark, Ellen, and Rachel. Okay. Herb merged with my family. My mom loved him dearly, and they were very close. My brother Howard and Herb were like brothers and cared deeply for each other. My eldest brother, Bob, loved him as well. Our family began to grow, welcoming Julie and then Michael, Howard, and my sister-in-law, Lucila, visited often with their children. I should never volunteer to read these without looking at the names first. Michelle, wait, let's see if I can do this. Howard and my sister-in-law visited often with their children, Michelle and Joey. My brother Bob visited frequently with our young nephews, Jody and Stuart, whom we adored. Herb loved being a father, and the world revolved around our children. We took many road trips with them, as well as trips to Disney World, other amusement parks in Florida, Hawaii, and more. He loved our drive-in theater nights with the kids, packing the station wagon with kids in pajamas, our dog, and lots of goodies to last the night. We had joked about that the other day, didn't we? Our home was often filled with neighborhood kids, family, and friends for the 4th of July and our Jewish holidays. He was so proud of Julie and Michael's accomplishments, both socially and scholastically. He beamed at their bar and bat mitzvahs. Herb loved every moment. The years went by, the kids grew up and found their wonderful soulmates, Mark and Beth, and we became grandparents. Herb in his glory, the world revolved around Aidan and Evie, Teagan, and Nathan. Our home became a mini amusement park with toy cars to ride on, tents, toys everywhere, inflatable animal swimming pools, flying kites, feeding the ducks and geese at the lake across the street, and lots of endless love. Homemade cookies and cakes, Jell-O molds, and more of that endless lots of love. We had the honor to attend their bar and bat mitzvahs, wrestling matches, softball games, ballet recitals, school concerts at LPP, watching Nathan playing guitar, and attending Aidan's high school graduation. He quelled. Oh, how he loved being a grandpa and papa. When stricken with acute myeloid leukemia, he fought valiantly to continue to enjoy life with our incredible family and friends. He lost the battle, but left this world knowing he was loved by his family, friends, and me, who will love him all of my day. Okay, I skipped the Yiddish class. Schlaf gesund, my dear Herbie. Close enough? Okay. So we've already been introduced to Howard, who has the next round of things to say. Aidan, you're after Howard. Sometimes this is like being the baseball coach, right? I understand he was a Cubs fan. I grew up on the north side too. I never say who I root for because, you know, out in Elgin, it's an evenly split congregation. I'm a Red Sox fan. Safer that way. So Aidan, Julie, and then Michael. Oldest to youngest. That was me. Oh.
Slowly but surely. More slowly. Mm. A wish for Herbie. I met you when I first transferred to Roosevelt High School, midway through my second year, some 68 years ago. I remember we met at the park across the street where you lived and almost became immediate friends. After that, I met several of your friends. We had a great time, took road trips, often went downtown to Al's Fishery at all hours and took out bags of fresh fried shrimp to the lake and talked for hours. After a while, we started going to your parents' house in Kenosha. Had a great time, got ginger beer and Racine. At night, we played Tinkle Tinkle Gin with your parents' friends, Feinsteins. But boy, did we learn how to play gin. And also, we did a lot of target shooting down by the dump. A few years later, one summer, you, Alan, and I went to the resort up in Wisconsin for the 4th of July weekend. Had a great time. That Saturday night, after indulging in several drinks, we wound up in front of one of the resort's bedrooms. And for some mystical reason, the door to the room came undone from its hinges.
That'd be another way to say that.
Polite way. You walked in, your eyes sparkled, and you met the love of your life, Barbara. Yes, the door was replaced. You stood up at my wedding, and I stood up at your wedding, and you had two wonderful children. I joined the Navy after my second year of college, after you told me about joining and being able to fly. You joined several months later, as well as many others who followed of our friends. You were in a great helicopter squadron that had a secret area in it, and we played a lot of poker, beat going to classes. Throughout the years, you remained one of my best friends and could never do enough for me or any of your other friends. And always asked about us and what problems we might have. Never complaining about yourself. I'm grateful to have known you, and so did all my friends, your friends. I pray you will rest in peace and wish to tell you that I and many others of your friends loved you. Shalom. I'm finished.
Aidan?
I'm not really sure where to start when having to talk about Papa. He was a sweet man who was young at heart, and he was one of the many influences that helped shape me into the man I am today. He was the perfect counterpart to Nani. It's hard to think about one without the other. Not to mention, he was a man with a great fashion sense with his numerous Hawaiian shirts. Papa loved spending time with all of his grandchildren, whether it was going to Go Bananas, which is an arcade, cheering us on in our sports matches, or taking us to theme parks. Whenever I'd go visit Nani and Papa, I knew I'd be in for a good time, and Papa was too. He'd be smiling along with us no matter what we were doing. I remember a trip to Legoland where we rode the same ride with him at least a dozen times. It had these rocks that were singing We Will Rock You by Queen. But every time around, Papa was smiling. He didn't get tired or complain. He was just happy that his grandchild was happy. 2 summers ago, Papa drove down to Nashville with Nani and Aunt Karen to watch my sister play softball. I think it takes a loving soul to drive across the country, sit in metal bleachers in 100-degree heat, get sunburned, and still have a smile on your face. He never complained, not once, because that's the kind of man he was. To him, it was worth all his while, especially if it meant stopping to get a milkshake. My sister told me that Papa was beaming with pride when she told him that she'd be playing softball in college. In my sports career, I know I've given Nani, and probably Papa too, more than a few scares. Wrestling isn't exactly the easiest sport to watch when your loved one is getting tossed around, but through it all, Papa waited patiently and supported me between matches. And if you've ever been to a wrestling tournament, you know a big part of it is waiting. Long hours, uncomfortable bleachers, and a lot of time, but not one complaint. One tournament stood out especially. I had a match that ended up going into triple overtime, and I was getting thrown around like a rag doll. It wasn't pretty to watch, but Nani and Papa stayed through it all, cheering me on. And then after that match, I remember Nani saying that next time she came to the match, she'd need to bring her cardiologist. Even when I didn't wrestle, they showed up, like on my senior night. They still supported me throughout the entire night. That kind of quiet presence says a lot. Papa showed up, not because he expected anything, but because he wanted to be there for his world, and that meant everything. One thing I learned from Papa was how to be comfortable with silence. He was a stoic man that said a lot with very little. I think back to when I had to interview him for a class in high school, where I learned a lot about his childhood. At the time, I was uncomfortable with pauses in conversation, both because of the assignment and because I was unsure of myself in the silence. But looking back, I think we shared a lot in that silence. In our final visits together, we didn't talk much, but I know we still said a lot to each other in those silent moments.
Julie?
Deep breath. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here to honor the life of my dad, Herb Dorfman, a man of few words, but a heart that spoke volumes. If you ever had a conversation with my dad, you know it wasn't always a rapid fire conversation. In fact, sometimes you'd ask him something and get silence. A long pause. Maybe he'd look up at the sky, maybe he'd close his eyes. And then after what felt like the length of a symphony, he'd say with great authority, "Okay." And that okay could mean anything from "I agree with you" to "you're on your own, kid." But it was always his way of letting you know he was listening, thinking, and giving you the best of him. Some of my fondest memories of Dad were the quietest ones. Sitting outside while he grilled, that was sacred time. We'd watch the storms roll in, count the seconds between thunderclaps and lightning bolts. It was like our own little science experiment, with a side of charred hot dogs. Those were the moments when he taught me that you don't always need words to connect. Sometimes you just need shared silence, the smell of smoke in the air, and a storm on the horizon. One of the brightest spots in his life was the moment I told him I was pregnant with Aidan. Mark and I came over with a grandparent book to surprise Mom. I handed it to her. She glanced at it, set it aside like a coupon flyer. Dad, being curious, picked it up, looked at the cover, looked at me, and then gave Mom a sharp "Barb," and handed it right back to her. He got it immediately. From that moment, being a grandparent became one of his greatest joys. He adored being surrounded by his grandchildren, whether it was taking them to Cole's Children's Museum, chasing them around Go Bananas, or flying kites across the street. He was always present for them, even attending his very first wrestling match to support Aidan. And you've already heard the story, so I apologize. Where he watched him get tossed around like a rag doll. What Aidan didn't tell you is he came out with a win. And Papa was so proud. My dad loved road trips. On any sunny afternoon, especially on a Sunday when there was nothing else to do. You can find mom and dad heading out for a drive. They would head up to Lake Geneva to walk around and have lunch, or make the drive for a brown paper peg apple pie. Or in the fall, just to see the leaves change colors. For Dad, it wasn't about the destination. It was the joy of being on the road with someone he loved and the time to take it all in. If you could combine that kind of road trip with a grandkid and some ice cream, well, that was his version of a perfect day. Like the time he drove to Nashville with Mom and Karen to watch Teagan play in a softball tournament. 3 of his favorite things all packed into one trip. It was hot, we all melted, but he was happy watching his Teagan do what she loved, beaming with pride. There's a meme floating around that some of you may have seen. I could come home with a shark and my husband would say, "That's an inconvenience," and then build an aquarium. That was Dad. He might say no at first, whether it was another rescue dog, my college cat, or years later when Greta dog and I moved in with him and Mom while we tried to sell our house in Arizona. He'd grumble, raise an eyebrow, let out a sigh, and then quietly, inevitably, he'd build the aquarium. Because that's what he did. He made space, not just in the house, but in his life and his heart, for the people and the chaos he loved. He loved the noise, the games, the mess, including the whipped cream fight, the cousin piles. To him, it wasn't a disruption, it was life, exactly as it should be. 2 of Dad's dear friends, Alan Middleman and Howard Slater, are here today, friends since high school, fellow naval reservists, and lifelong companions. Not many people can say they've had friends since they were 14, but Dad could. He valued loyalty, consistency, and good company, and he was all those things in return. So today, as we remember Dad, let's take a cue from him. Let's look at the sky. Let's sit quietly with someone we love. And when words fail us, let's just close our eyes. Nod slowly and say, "Okay. Love you, Pops."
Well done. We're prepared up here, but go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today to honor my dad. Let's start with one of his unspoken guiding principles. Things didn't have to be perfect. They just had to be good enough. Whether it was a home repair project or a life philosophy, good enough got the job done. Now, that approach has its consequences. Some of our electrical projects featured a few, let's say, non-standard wiring decisions. There were times where both of us got shocked literally by the results. And there was the foyer tile job in Morton Grove, which included a clearly broken piece of ceramic, but it was glued down and solidly in place. So in his view, it was good enough. Good enough. Which brings me to my mother. I kid. He loved her more than anything. My parents were married for over 56 years. What made it work was how completely different they were and how they let each other be fully themselves. My mom is the planner, the host, the social hub. She loves people, conversation, celebration. And my dad? He was happy to be in the background, plate of food in hand, enjoying the show. When my wife Beth first met them, she later asked me, "Does your mom ever let your dad talk?" That was the dynamic, and it worked. That's not to say he didn't have opinions, he definitely did. He just chose his moments, and when he spoke, it was often with a dry, perfectly timed one-liner that left everyone laughing. He didn't need the spotlight, he let my mom shine and quietly enjoyed it. Some of my best memories are of us downstairs in the smoky Morton Grove basement watching cheesy monster or sci-fi movies, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, Godzilla with or without Mothra or Gamera or some other ridiculous monster. Really anything from the son of Svengoolie or Elvira. But it wasn't about the movie, it was about the time together. The home projects were their own kind of adventure. He'd tackle anything with a hammer, wrench, wire, or PVC pipe, backed by a confidence that may or may not have been earned. But it got done, eventually, and almost never to code. I followed in his footsteps, generally believing that no project is too big or beyond my abilities. Sorry, Beth. He fought acute myeloid leukemia for 9 months with that same quiet perseverance. No drama, just strength, resolve, and that familiar mischievous grin. He had a tough childhood. He had polio. He lost his father on his 20th birthday, but he never let those things define him. He came through with humor, kindness, and grit. He was proud of me and Julie, not just for our accomplishments, like my degrees in making partner as a lawyer or Julie's degrees in incredible professional success, but for the lives we built and the people we became. We shared great trips, Disney, Hawaii, and long road trips to far less glamorous places. Growing up, we played on swing sets in the backyard, grilled burgers outside the breezeway, and simply enjoyed being together. He loved those moments, and we felt that love, always. My dad welcomed the people we brought into our lives with open arms. He loved Beth like a second daughter, completely and without hesitation. He admired her warmth, her strength, and how deeply she cared for those around her. And he appreciated and respected Mark too, especially their shared sense of duty and commitment to family. He saw how happy we were, how our families had grown, and he was proud of that too. He brought that same pride and curiosity to his grandchildren. Aidan, Evie, Teagan, and Nathan. He genuinely wanted to know what they were into, sports, school, music, whatever. And he loved being part of their world. My dad was the youngest of 4 brothers, still called Babe by Uncle Irving well into adulthood. He loved his brothers and their families deeply. Whether related by blood or not, they were his people, and he would do anything for them. He treasured his many nieces, nephews, great-nephews, and more. Family meant everything to him. He also had friendships that spanned decades, some going back to childhood. Those friends became family too. With them, he didn't need to be the leader or the center of attention. He just wanted to be present, to show up, to listen, to laugh. I will miss his Cheshire Cat grin, the way he always wanted his water glass filled to the top with ice, sometimes with a second glass just for ice. The Herb Dorfman Yurtzeit candle should really be an insulated mug that keeps a drink cold for 24 hours. I'll miss how he called me son instead of Mike or Michael, his dry humor, his quiet strength, his support. There's a quote often attributed to Dr. Seuss that I keep thinking about. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. They say the trick is to drink water. Sorry. I think Dad would have liked that. He wasn't overly sentimental, but he believed and appreciated what you had, not dwelling on what you lost. His life may not have been perfect, but it was full. It was joyful. It was more than good enough. It was something to smile about. Thank you.
Well done. And I haven't heard that Seuss quote before, so thank you for that. I always back clean up. The man we are here today to celebrate, and you've heard this already, was a quiet man, one who listened more than he spoke, but when he did, his opinion was worth listening to and hearing. He had a dry sense of humor, but perhaps the most important thing was he lived for his family. He adored his family and his dogs. Sometimes you've even heard it said that it was hard to get a word in edgewise. That seemed to be a consistent theme today, and I didn't pre-read these. But perhaps that's appropriate for today. This is the week that we read about Aaron, who was a very quiet man And this week in particular, he had no words when his sons died. Herb was a dog lover, and his newlyweds, they adopted the first of many rescues. He would always say, "No more dogs," until the next time they rescued a dog. He worked hard as a salesman and manufacturer's rep in a variety of industries, and we didn't hear so much about that because those were just ways to provide for his family. As a husband, he was loving and supportive. He never quite knew what to do for Barbara, but he was always there for her. And Barbara says that that's what marriage is all about. There's a lot to learn from this couple. As a father, he was a great father. He lived for his kids. You've heard about the trips. And then the grandkids came. Aidan, Evie, Teagan, and Nathan. There was such a collection of writing toys that maybe they could have opened their own Toys R Us. And then I heard about all those cousin pileups with Nathan at the base. I hear their photos. You can ask for those later. More recently, he loved seeing each of you, the grandkids. He would try to hide how sick he was and how lousy he would feel. You were all his best medicine, and his sick and tired eyes would light up when you appeared. He was unfailingly helpful. He would help anyone at any time, and if you said no, he would help you anyway. Michael told a story about how if he was opening the door for you and then Michael tried to open the door, it's a miracle that anybody actually got through the door. You go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. The way Michael tells it is like a comedy skit. Like many families, there were elaborate ruses and rules of how to grab the check at a restaurant. I imagine many of you have played that game. Herb almost always won. You had to be really adroit to find that check first. He was a good neighbor, showing up to fix anything that needing fixing. All right, maybe not to code, Michael. He had a deep bond with his Korean neighbor despite a language barrier. That quiet thing worked in that case. They would fix things together or share their beloved watermelons. He loved puttering in the driveway with his car, and all the neighborhood kids would stop to watch. The house was always open for the kids, filled with friends of Julie and Michael. It was the place to be. And that was true for holidays as well, especially the 4th of July and Thanksgiving. 4th of July would find him grilling, I heard, hot dogs, maybe hamburgers too, and those beloved baked beans. The house was situated with a view of a lake over which the fireworks could be seen. When they sold that house, a friend, maybe it was their lawyer, said something like, see if you can rent it back just for one day so we can do this again. Was it the lawyer? It was the lawyer. Lawyers can be friends. Michael probably appreciates that. Yeah. The love of food and family and friends were also true for Jewish things. Passover seemed to be his favorite, and this was true of their involvement in Judaism in general. He was very active at Northwest Suburban, where he tried to make it fulfilling. Although he came from a home where his father wasn't particularly religious, and they raised 4 boys. The women were more religious, as is often the case. So this was true in Barbara and Herb too. Whenever Barbara had a project for sisterhood or whatever, maybe like the locks boxes, he would be really helpful and supportive. He really enjoyed those years at Northwest Suburban in Morton Grove with Rabbi Chardy of blessed memory, I think, yes. And then in Vernon Hills with Rabbi Feldman. You've begun to hear the stories. That's how we keep the memory of Herb alive. Keep telling the stories, all of them. You all knew Herb better than I did. Tell them to Barbara, to Michael, to Julie, to Mark and Beth, and especially to Aidan, Teagan, Evie, and Nathan. May the memory of Herb Dorfman endure among us as a blessing. In your own time, O God, when we too are called to eternity, may we leave this life secure in the knowledge that may we leave this life secure in the faith that in your light we shall see light. In life and death we cannot go where you are not, and where you are, hope endures. Sustained by this assurance, we evoke your name, Almighty God. At this point, we're going to do in the rising of the sun and in its going down, where the echo is, we remember him. Then I'll chant El Male Rachamim both here and at the cemetery. And then Peggy will have some announcements about how we get from here to there. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring and in the crack of that baseball bat, we remember him. In the rustling of the leaves on a road trip to Lake Geneva, and in the beauty of autumn, we remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. I invite you to rise as you're able. El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamse Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfe Hashchina, Im Kirushim Taharim, Kezoha Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Chaim Yosef Ben Nachum Vefega, Shahalach Lolamo, Baal Harachamim, Yistarehu Beseter Kanaf Lolamim, Bitzror Hachayim et Nishmato, Adonai Hunachalacho, Vianuach Bishalom al Mishkavo, Benomar Amen.
This does conclude the service here at the chapel. The family will be receiving condolences immediately following the interment today, right back here at the funeral home, 8851 Skokie Boulevard, until 8 p.m. this evening. So we're thinking about 3-ish till 8 p.m. And that information is on our website as well as the folders. Shiva will then continue Thursday, tomorrow, April 24th, and Sunday, April 27th. At Mrs. Karen Polikoff's residence, 1771 Mission Hills Road, Unit 415 in Northbrook. And that will be 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. both days. So that's Thursday and Sunday at that residence. There is a doorman or a house with a security there gated, and just tell them what you're there for and he'll let you in. Interment will take place at West Lawn Cemetery, that's 7801 West Montrose Avenue in Norwich. The procession will be forming in the parking lot. Please keep in mind a few safety features while in the procession. Keep your bright headlights on at all times. Put your emergency blinkers on. Attach the orange funeral sticker to the passenger portion of your front windshield. And we'll also attach a flag to the roof of your car. And please stay as close as safety permits to the car in front of you. The following people have been selected to serve as pallbearers. When I call your name, please come forward. Aidan, Dillon, Teagan, Dillon, Nathan Dorfman, Jordan Dorfman, Mark Dorfman, Jody Graff, Alan Middleman, Howard Slater, and Debbie Peckler. acting or serving as honorary pallbearers. The follow behind will be Jeff Arnold, Les Friedman, Marvin Letwat, Stuart Graff, and Joseph Graff. At this time, I would ask that everyone please rise as the family and the rabbi are escorted from the chapel.